Dax Harwood reveals he spoke with CM Punk after the AEW All Out post-show brawl with the Elite and speaks on if Punk could return to AEW plus a plethora of other topics involving AEW stars. Speaking of FTR, how much longer will they be the AAA World Tag Team Champions? Got an update on that. We've got the ratings for Friday's Holiday Bash edition of AEW Rampage. Plus, Shawn Spears says he won't be back on AEW television anytime soon. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, and one of the biggest stories we're going to start off talking about is Dax Harwood. Now, you might have actually seen recently, Dax Harwood has got a new podcast in replacing William Regal's Gentleman Villain podcast, and Conrad Thompson's podcast Empire is FTR's podcast, or FTR with Dax Harwood. And the first episode has discussed CM Punk's time in AEW, and certainly he's opened up really more than I think any other AEW wrestler on the record in terms of talking about the details of what he knows, he doesn't know, what happened on the evening, the backstage reaction to it, the future for the likes of CM Punk in AEW. It's a fascinating discourse about the status of the fallout of Brawlout. So Dax Harwood has discussed CM Punk's time in All Elite Wrestling. Now, it's no secret, of course, that Harwood and CM Punk became good friends during their time in AEW, bonding over their shared love of Bret Hitman Hart and professional wrestling in general. Punk specifically requested to work with Harwood on a March episode of Dynamite, and FTR teamed with Punk after Punk won the AEW World Championship from Hangman Adam Page following AEW Double or Nothing. Now, the lead up to AEW Double or Nothing, of course, was pivotal in Punk's AEW career, as a promo segment with Hangman Adam Page caused waves, with Punk taking exception to a line from Hangman. Now, speaking on his brand new FTR podcast, Harwood revealed the conversation he had with Punk following the segment. Now, hat tip to Jeremy Lambert from Fightful.com for the transcription for this one. Links in the video description below if you want to find the article. But this is what Harwood had to say about Punk's reaction to that now infamous segment with Hangman on Dynamite, saying, quote, "After the promo segment, I went to Punk and I said, that was really good. That was a great segment. They got the fans to react. It's hard sometimes to get the fans to react to a babyface match. I thought it was a great segment." He was like, I'm kind of feeling a certain way about it. I had no inkling that anything went wrong or went sideways or anything like that, he said. Now, when asked by co-host Matt Coon if Hangman seemed like the type of guy that would take that kind of shot in a promo, Dax replied, quote, "To be honest, I don't really know Adam Page very well. We worked together once on the North Carolina Indies. I don't know him very well, but I don't think so, and I don't think so. I didn't have the notion of him, or that notion of him. He's a family man. He loves his wife. He just had a newborn. He's always pleasant and polite to me. We always talked and get along, even after the disagreements we've had with the Young Bucks. He and I have also have always talked and got along great." Now, it must be said, it's quite interesting that he says that. So basically, he says, I spoke with Punk after that segment. I said, that was a great segment. And probably reacted like everyone did of watching it on television and went, that's good. But already at that time, clearly the wheels were turning in the mind of CM Punk and he wasn't happy. He certainly was frustrated with that line, and the seeds were starting to be planted in the build-up to that now infamous all-out post-show media scrum from CM Punk. Now, Hangman and Punk went on to do business together at the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view, though Punk said in his AEW All-Out press conference that Hangman threatened the first ever $1 million gate in AEW, referencing their infamous bout together. Punk, of course, would miss time after Double or Nothing with a foot injury he sustained on the first episode of Dynamite after the pay-per-view, halting plans that AEW had for Punk and FTR to team throughout the summer, something Tony Khan has touched on recently. But he did return to set up a showdown with Jon Moxley at All Out for the AEW World Championship. Now, All Out has become this flashpoint, this pivotal event in AEW history in its infancy years, of course. All Out has now become infamous for Punk's post-event press conference, where he aired his grievances against Page, Colt Cabana, and the executive vice presidents, and the backstage altercation between Punk, Ace Steel, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks. Steel, of course, was fired, while the Elite and Punk, who suffered an injury during this match against Moxley, were suspended. The Elite have since returned to television. Punk, he's still recovering from the surgery on his torn triceps, but we don't know his status with the company as of right now. When asked if he got the feeling that Punk was starting to become bitter towards AEW or the executive vice presidents heading into All Out, Dax replied, quote, "No, not at all. Punk was still so joyous and happy to be in the wrestling business. To be honest, he told me when they were going to put the belt on him that he didn't want the belt. He said, I just want to have fun. But he understood that Tony putting the belt on him would put AEW in a better light. He took it, begrudgingly a little bit, but he took the bout. At the time, he was taking me, Cash, Max, that being MJF, Wardlow, Hobbs. I'm missing so many guys. He was taking us out to eat, always paying for it. He bought all the girls in the locker room Starbucks gift cards and had one of the girls hand them out anonymously. I didn't say who they were from, but it was from him, just because he loved the atmosphere and loved being there. He also loved the work the girls were putting in. He thought they were busting their ass to try and get the attention that the WWE's women's division is getting, which is always very interesting because, again, this is what I've been saying recently, and this isn't me, oh, you're a CM Punk backer or you're a CM Punk defender. It's just a point of there has been so much put out there, and Dax kind of touches on this a bit later on, but there's been so much put out there, like the entire AEW locker room hated CM Punk. I think Chris Jericho infamously confronts Punk just after the incident at All Out, says, "You're a cancer to the locker room, you're a cancer to AEW." And if what Dax Harwood is saying here is true, in reality it's actually a case of, well, there were people there that liked him, and there are other people that have said just that. Ricky Stark said, "I really liked having him around." MJF has said, "I got on with him fine." And there are other people too. And that's the point nowadays. Things aren't black or white. There's shades of grey. And like life, there are people that don't like people, and there's also people that like that person. They can be polarizing figures. That's hardly news that CM Punk is a polarizing figure in pro wrestling, because that's his career. Now, though FTR wrestled at All Out, teaming with Wardlow to defeat Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns, Dax had actually left the arena by the time Punk had his now infamous press conference rant. Harwood continued the story, revealing something that we didn't actually know before this podcast, saying he actually spoke to Punk. He spoke to CM Punk shortly after everything went down. This is fascinating. He says, quote, "All the boys in the locker room were drinking and having a good time, and we were hugging. I have a picture of me and Jay Lethal on the ground together, just laughing our ass off. I had my wife and daughter there. Cash had his girlfriend. It was such a great time. After our match was over, I shower up. We had a couple of drinks with the guys real quick, grab my girls, and I head back to the hotel. I was laying in bed and I got a text from one of the wrestlers that said, 'Is this shit true?' I had no idea what he was talking about. Right after that, I get a call from my buddy, CM Punk, and he told me what happened. I said, 'You're lying to me, dude. There's no way that happened.' He was covered in blood from the match. He FaceTimed me. It was that night. He said, 'I want to let you know you're going to hear some things. I want you to hear it from me. This is what happened.' I said, 'Dude, are you okay? Do you need anything? I'll come right now to help you out, get you cleaned.' 'No, everything is fine. It's died down. We're good.' That's when I first heard about it," he said, which again is just fascinating. That basically minutes after the incident, CM Punk is FaceTiming Dax Harwood, who's laying down in his hotel bed. And imagine that. You see CM Punk's FaceTiming me, you answer it, and you see this man covered in blood, because he was covered in blood from the match. It wasn't the brawl, but he's covered in blood, and he just goes, "By the way, I think my triceps torn. Oh, and by the way, I just got in a massive fight with the EVPs. Someone bit Kenny Omega, punches were thrown, it's all kicked off." You'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Because that was kind of the reaction online when we heard it at the time, wasn't it? Like, there's no way. There's no way. But it's interesting to see Punk's mindset after that happened, of him going, "No, it's all died down now, it's fine." And frankly, it was just the beginning. Now, according to multiple reports, the altercation included Punk throwing a punch, a chair being thrown, and Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega. There have been mixed reports as to who started the brawl and how it started. We'll probably never figure that out. And when asked about the brawl and what he perceives to be true, Dax said, quote, "Obviously, I wasn't there. Who I perceive to be God is the only person who really knows the truth. Everyone is going to have their own version in their head. We've all done it before. We've all made what we perceive to be the truth. What I've heard that is reported, there are elements of truth to it, but then there are also some things that raise a red flag to me. It seems like we're only getting a portion of the story, or what this journalist wants to put out, whether he has a bias or grudge against one of the parties. That's just how I felt. I also knew that I didn't know the whole story. I also felt that the stories that I heard from a few people, I don't feel like they would blatantly lie to me. I do think there are bits of truth, but I also believe that some fans have read too much into it, and they should just let what happened, and it died down. When it's all said and done, I can't tell you that I know 100% of the truth. I can't tell you that the journalist is reporting 100% of the truth. I know what I perceive to be the truth, and from the things I've read and heard, there is partial truth and partial things that are a bit exaggerated. And that is the key thing. That is the key thing throughout all of this. And as someone that has a wrestling news channel, and I don't break news, I'll just read the news and give my opinion on it, and I'll try and give you the best and most balanced version of events that I can while sprinkling in my opinion. That's so important. And it's not even just a wrestling news here. This is news, this is life, is that you can't believe everything you hear. You have to see the information in front of you, read it, digest it. You have to do the wine taste on it. Go sip it and go, how does that taste? How does that feel? Does that sound right to me? Does that sound wrong to me? As I mentioned, not everything is black and white. There are shades of grey, and we're never going to know the full truth. We're only going to have eyewitnesses. We're only going to have second, third-hand information. We're only going to have this journalist says this, and you have to think, well, where are they coming from and where have they heard that from? Because they weren't there. So if they're hearing it from someone, did they hear it from someone that was in the room, or did they hear it from someone that was outside the room? Did they hear it from the Elite or CM Punk themselves? And even if they did, they're not going to tell the full version of the truth. They're going to tell their version of the truth. And that's the point. You have to try and be as balanced as you possibly can when you think about the Brawl Out incident, because nobody knows the truth. Even these external investigations that AEW have done, they can be slanted as well, and I'm sure they are. Now, though the Elite returned to AEW TV at Full Gear and have been consistently wrestling as part of this Best of 7 series, Punk remains off television, and it's unknown if or when he will return. Asked if we could see Punk back in AEW, Harwood said, quote, "I can tell you what I hope, because I don't know. Everyone knows about the legalities of the situation, and no one is really expressing what is going to happen, what has happened, or what won't happen. I can tell you, all I can be truthful about, I can only tell you what I know and what I perceive to know. I hope he comes back. I feel that AEW should have the Young Bucks in their locker room. AEW should have Kenny Omega in the locker room. I know that I feel AEW should have CM Punk in the locker room. With those 4 entities, it makes our talent roster so much deeper and better. It's 4 guys who you want to be the best. Regardless of what any of us think personally, I know we all want to be the best, and I know we all want the best for professional wrestling. It's given us a life that we could never have otherwise." Dax spoke about how pro wrestling has given so much for all 4 of them and their families, and how much they all love the business. He closed by saying, quote, "This is my plea to all 4 guys. Please find a way to make it work. If we can make it work, we can set up the future of professional wrestling for a long time, and we can change the course of professional wrestling for a very long time. When you think about it, unselfishly, we're doing this for 20 to 30 years down the road so guys and girls can make a living." Now, of course, Tony Khan has given multiple no comments regarding Punk's status in AEW, but it's still up in the air. And you know what? And I think Dax Harwood, and I would recommend to go watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, listen to what he says, because he speaks really, really well. And again, it's fascinating to have someone actively competing in AEW and close to Punk, and obviously have faced off and had things to say about the Young Bucks in the past. It's fascinating to hear his thought and slant on things. But I think he's spot on towards the end. I think that the key thing and the best thing for AEW, honestly, is to find a way to make it work. As I've said, I know there are these people that have their conspiracy theories, say it was always a work from the start. Punk was injured and it was always a work. They got together secretly and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. No, it was a shoot. It was clearly a shoot, and it was clearly a problem, and it's something that Tony Khan should have managed better, and it's something that he has to learn from heading into 2023. But if they can put all of the BS aside, and if they can make this work, if they can decide, look, I don't like you, I don't like how this was run, I don't like how this was happening, but what I will say is if we work together, you can make a whole lot of money, and they will be able to do the best business that AEW has ever done. Factual. CM Punk was part of some of the biggest gates and biggest pay-per-view buys in AEW history. His ability to draw is there. You can say, oh, he didn't really draw ratings and his return didn't go the way that maybe some people had said. Maybe they put their expectations too high. The one thing is for sure is that this is the biggest story to envelop All Elite Wrestling. And if they can manipulate it and turn it into a storyline, which is entirely possible. Punk ain't back until June. He's not cleared to wrestle until June or the summer of next year. So it's entirely possible that time could heal all wounds. And we could have a situation where Punk comes back and teams up with FTR to face off against the Elite. And that is money, and that would do some of the biggest and best business that AEW has ever seen in terms of television ratings, in terms of pay-per-view buys, in terms of tickets, and it would ignite what has been a cold product this year. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know what's going to happen with CM Punk. If a news story came out tomorrow saying that he was done, he was released, I wouldn't be shocked. But at the same time, if I heard that things were going to be moving in the right direction, I wouldn't be shocked with that either. So honestly, to answer the questions, I really don't know at this point. I really don't. I am none the wiser. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, speaking of FTR, they still are the AAA World Tag Team Champions, but not for long if people in AAA have their think this is where this is going. It's without question been a magical year for AEW's FTR, as the duo seemingly has won every tag team title but the AEW Tag Team Championships, with a memorable run as the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, their current run as the IWGP Tag Team Champions for New Japan Pro Wrestling, throw in their trilogy with the Briscoes and a strong run of singles matches for FTR member Dax Harwood, and it really doesn't get too much better than that. One of the more forgotten aspects of FTR's 2022, however, has been their run as the AAA World Tag Team Champions. Their reign has lasted for well over a year, despite defending the titles only really a handful of times between the US and Mexico, with the most recent defense coming back in April. Such inactivity would suggest a title change could likely be coming up, and reports seem to suggest that is the case. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported on Tuesday that talent in AAA are under the impression that FTR will be dropping the belts, quote, sooner rather than later. Coincidentally, the report comes just days before FTR is scheduled to make their first appearance in Mexico since March, defending the titles against Dragon Lee and Dralistico, who they previously defeated. The AAA tag team titles may not be the last titles that FTR are in danger of dropping in the next few weeks, as the duo appears to be in a slump following losses to the AEW World Tag Team Champions, The Acclaimed, the Briscoes, and the Guns last week on Dynamite. Harwood and Wheeler are also expected in the Tokyo Dome on January 4 for Wrestle Kingdom 17, where they'll put up the IWGP Tag Team titles against Haruki Goto and Yoshihashi. And once again, I think they're expected to drop the titles then. So they might be without all of the belts very, very soon. We've got the ratings for Friday's Holiday Bash edition of AEW Rampage on TNT. And you know what? For Rampage, it's all right. It's okay. The viewership figure and demo rating for Friday's December 23rd edition of AEW Rampage on TNT has been revealed. And per Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, Rampage drew 566,000 viewers, which is up from the December 16 edition of Rampage that drew 464,000 viewers. This is actually the highest total viewership for the program since the April 8 episode. So we're going back to way earlier on in the year. Again, it was a very good number for Rampage. Still not great in general, but it's good for Rampage. Now, in terms of the key 18 to 49 demographic, Friday's show scored a 0.18 rating, which is also up from the week prior that scored a 0.15 rating. The demo for Rampage, once again, was the highest since April 22nd. AEW ranked number 5 on the cable originals in the demo for the night. Of course, it featured that at Three Kings, $300,000 Three Kings of Christmas Trios Battle Royale, and seemingly it worked. So Tony Khan, I think, will be happy with that. Still a long way to go with AEW Rampage, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do as we head into 2023 as they attempt to resurrect the ratings for that show. Finally, Shawn Spears, he's been absent for a while, and it doesn't look like he's going to be returning really anytime soon. One AEW star long absent from weekly television is telling fans not to hold out for his return. Shawn Spears has been off AEW programming since May, outside of a one-off appearance on AEW Rampage in mid-October, where he teamed up with FTR in a six-man tag team match. After the show, Spears told the live crowd he's been taking time off for two reasons: his mother's death earlier on in the year, and the fact that he and Cassie Lee are expecting their first child together. On Tuesday, Spears signaled to fans that he won't be coming back to AEW in the near future. Spears tweeted his career update in response to a fan asking where the pro wrestler has been and when he'll be returning to AEW, saying, quote, "Don't hold your breath," he tweeted, "not going there anytime soon." Now, Spears appeared to be written out of AEW storylines following a May loss to Wardlow in a steel cage match that featured MJF acting as the special guest referee. 5 months later, Spears returned for his trios match with FTR. While 2022 has been an emotional year for Spears, the AEW star sounded eager to share the good news about he and his wife's pregnancy when he broke the news about his son's name to Renee Paquette in November. Last month, Spears clarified his priorities are outside of the squared circle at the moment, telling KNS WrestleFest his responsibilities are being a dad first, everything else second. So we don't know when Shawn Spears is going to be back, but one thing's for sure, it's probably not going to be anytime soon. So there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.